Kiev, the mother of Rus cities, the Rus lands. In the year 862, as reported by the famous Nestor the Chronicler, northern Slavic tribes seeking to quench the fire of civil strife and heeding advice of a Novgorod elder Gostomysl, decided for a step unprecedented in the world history. A ruler from other lands was invited to govern their lands. Vikings, former enemies of Slavic people, were called to power. According to Nestor, the Novgorod Slavs, along with tribes of Krivichi, Ves and Chud, sent an envoy across the sea to Viking Russes. Their message was simple yet loud and clear: our land is vast and rich, but there is no order on it. Come be our princes and rule among us. Heeding those powerful words, three brothers, Rurik, Sinius and Truvor, agreed to rule over those freedom-loving people who would not put their freedom to good use. So in the year 862, the history of Russian monarchy began. Rurik arrived in Novgorod, Sinius in Beloozero, home of the Finnish tribe Ves, and Truvor came to Izborsk, city of Krivichi. These lands were called the Russian lands in honor of Rus Viking princes. Soon, two of Rurik's men, Askold and Dir, headed to Constantinople with a small party of loyal troops. When they saw a settlement on the high slope of the Dnipro, they inquired about its ruler. The answer came that the town's founders, brothers Kishtek and Horiv, and their sister Libid, had died a long time ago. The peaceful folk were paying tribute to Khazars. The chronicles say nothing of the possible forces' seizure of the city, though Askold and Dir became its rightful rulers. Kiev was the name of that place, for which high river slopes served as good defense against regular raids of nomadic tribes. The town also was located on important trade routes, such as the legendary Greek route, stretching from the Finnish Gulf down by the Neva and Ladoga Lake, through the Golkhov River and the Ilmen Lake, Lovata and some smaller rivers, down to the Dnipro's headwater and into the Black Sea. For reasons of defense, Kievan princes built their palaces on a high Starokivska mountain, current residence of the Historical Museum. Merchants and craftsmen lived near the Dnipro, where modern Podil is located. In 879, Prince Rurik died in Novgorod, entrusting the power and his young son Igor with his relative Oleg. Seeking to expand his domain, in 882 Oleg headed towards the Dnipro along with a small troop and the miner Igor. Smolensk gave in almost without a fight, followed by Lubich, the city of Severian tribe. Later, the same year, Oleg arrived at the walls of Kiev. Not willing to risk a fight with his brothers, who were also skilled warriors, he disguised himself as a merchant and invited Princes Askold and Dir to meet at the Hungarian mountain. One part of his troops hid in the boats, while the other laid an ambush not far away. Nestor the Chronicler recounts that fateful meeting. When Askold and Dir came along, the rest of Oleg's men appeared from the boats, and Oleg spoke to Askold and Dir. "You are not of the royal birth." Pointing at Igor, he said, "He is the son of Rurik." Upon that, Askold and Dir were killed and brought to the Hungarian mountain, where they now lay buried. Oleg came to rule the city, and he said, "This will be the mother of all Russian cities." In the years that followed, Oleg led a number of campaigns, making the tribes of Drevlians, Severians, and Radimichi his tributaries. He also pressed the mighty Khazar Khaganate. Kiev became the center of a newly formed state, a political and territorial heart of the future Kievan Rus. Smart politics and warfare ensured rapid development of Oleg's state. The first followers of Christian faith appear in Kiev. According to Byzantine chronicles, at that age, Rus was the 60th province subordinate to the head of Byzantine clergy. Inter-TV channel dedicated to the celebration of the Days of Kiev. Inter-TV channel dedicated to the celebration of the Days of Kiev. The mother of the Russian cities, Kiev, Oleg and Igor. In the year 902, 700 Russes, or Kievan Vikings, served in Byzantine fleet, receiving their payment in gold. But being a child of his time, Oleg, tempted by wealth of his biggest neighbor, Byzantine Empire, decided to wage war against it. All lands subject to his rule, Novgorodians, Finnish inhabitants of Beloozero, Rostov-Meria, Krivichi, Severiani, Kievan Polyane, Rodomichi, Duliby, Horvati and Tiversi joined join the Viking cause under his banner. In 907, 2,000 light vessels moved down the Dnipro, each one carrying 40 warriors. Cavalry followed them by the riverside. Emperor Leon ordered to close only the entrance to the bay by a chain, thus welcoming Oleg to wreak havoc on Byzantine outskirts, burn villages and churches. Nestor the chronicler proves his unbiased view by painting the terror wrought by Russes in the darkest tones. At last, he says, the capital city trembled when Oleg attached the wheels to his vessels so that they approached the city walls on dry land. Stricken by that performance, Greeks begged for mercy. They agreed to pay what he demanded, 12 hryvnias for each of his warriors, whereupon Oleg should cease his assault and return to his homeland. The city paid for its peace, and on September 2, 911, a written peace treaty was signed between Russes and Greeks. As a sign of his victory, Oleg nailed his shield to the gates of Constantinople and returned to Kiev. People were in such an awe of his might that they quickly dubbed him the Oracular. For Igor, who already matured into a man, Oleg found a wife named Olga from the lands of Pskov. The chronicle has it that Oleg governed Kiev for 33 years. Since there is no authentic evidence as to the year of cause of his death, the legend where he dies bitten by a snake crawling out of his horse's skull could well be pure fiction. Oleg was buried on the Shikovitsa mountain, which now has a second name, Olehivka, or Oleg's mountain. Nestor relates that after the death of Oleg, the folk shed many mournful tears. As we see, Oleg could not only rouse fear with his enemies, but he also was deeply admired by his people. After Oleg, Kiev's next prince was Igor, the son of the legendary Rurik. As his first royal deed, he pacified the Drevlians, who refused to pay tribute after Oleg's death. Igor defeated them and put them under even heavier tribute. Afterwards, he tried to tame the unruly tribe of Ulichi, who dwelt in the lower Dnieper. They were forced to leave their places and settle between the Bug and Dniester. After their departure, all the length of the Great Greek Road was controlled by the great Kievan prince. In 913, Igor begins his great assault on the Caspian lands. The legend has it that 500 Russian vessels, each housing 100 warriors, went down the Dnipro to the Black Sea. They made a southern turn around the Crimean Peninsula and entered the Sea of Azov. Past the Don River, they covered some distance on wheels until they finally reached the Volga. There, the warriors split forces and spread it along the Volga and Transcaucasian lands, wreaking bloody revenge for all the past offenses. As the Arab historian recounts, the Russes shed people's blood, captured children and women, pillaged and plundered, burned villages and towns. On their way back, after ravaging the rich Caspian lands, the Russes were encountered by a mighty army of Khazars. In the fierce battle, which lasted for 3 days, almost all Russian warriors perished. In 941, Igor marches out to Constantinople. As reported by his contemporaries, the fleet consisted of about 1,000 vessels. They were countered by the Greek fleet, rigged with a flamethrower, the famous Greek fire, which used oil as a combustible. As soon as their opponents closed in on each other, Greeks began showering flames on Igor's fleet. The wooden ships caught fire instantly, and most of them met their death. Such was the sad outcome of Igor's campaign against Constantinople. In 945, Igor paid visit to Drevlians to collect a regular tribute. Upon taking his due, Igor let most of his men go and went to Iskoristan with a small regiment, now seeking to collect his personal tribute. Drevlians, revolted by double extortion, attacked Igor's weak retinue. The legend describes Igor's brutal execution. His legs were tied to 2 bent trees, which, when they sprang up, unbending, ripped the prince's body apart. Inter TV channel dedicated to the celebration of the days of Kiev. Inter TV channel dedicated to the celebration of the days of Kiev. The mother of the Russian cities, Kiev. Olga, Svetoslav and Volodymyr. Having Prince Igor slain and buried not far from Iskoristan, the Drevlian Prince Maol attempted not only to free his people from the power of Kiev, but also to seize the power. His attempt was not successful, however. Princess Olga, Igor's widow, brutally suppressed the revolting Drevlians. The first envoy from that unruly tribe was buried alive along with the boat which brought them to Kiev. The second envoy was burned in a bathhouse. Inviting the Drevlian nobles for the 3rd time to mourn Igor's funeral anniversary, victory, Olga ordered to kill them too. Then she went to Iskoristan with her regiment and demanded an unusual tribute: 3 pigeons and 3 sparrows from each house. When she released the birds with burning rags soaked in sulfur tied to their legs, the Georgian capital city was set on fire. About 5,000 people were burnt alive in the raging fire. Later, Olga had to rearrange the collection of tribute. She introduced strict rules as to where, how, and how much of the tribute was to be collected. She was also the first of Kievan rulers to adopt Christianity. In 957, she went to Constantinople, where Patriarch personally baptized her in a traditional ceremony. Byzantine Emperor Constantine, the Purple-born, became her godfather. The son of Igor, Sviatoslav, is known in history as a talented military leader. His efforts helped joining more new lands to Kiev, Vyatichi and Moldovan tribes. He fought successfully in the Caucasus and the coast of Azov, conquering Tmutarakan on the Taman Peninsula and repelling the Pechenegs. Sviatoslav shattered the Khazar Khaganate, putting an end to its existence as a state. Scared of Russia's growing strength, Byzantium engaged them in a quarrel with the Danube Bulgarians. In one mighty blow, Sviatoslav defeated Bulgarians. Their land seemed so appealing to him that he decided to move his capital to Pereyaslawets on the Danube. Although such serious onslaught of Sviatoslav posed a serious threat to Byzantium, Emperor John Tzimiskes initiated a struggle with Sviatoslav for the rule over the Danube. In one of the battles that followed, an army of 100,000 Byzantine soldiers cornered the Russes and inflicted their defeat. The great prince went homeward with the rest of his troops. In the year 972, he was ambushed by Pechenegs near the Dnipro. Sviatoslav died in that battle. Historians consider the times that followed after Sviatoslav the golden age of Kievan Rus. The state was then governed by Volodymyr the Great, who managed to succeed where his predecessors failed, prompting all the Eastern Slavic lands to join Kievan Rus, whose borders now stretched from the Carpathian Mountains and Przemysl to Cherven and Brest in the west, to Suzdal and Upper Don in the east, from Novgorod in the north to Tmutarakan in the Black Sea in the south. Finally, and most importantly, Volodymyr made Kievan Rus a Christian state. He marched with his army to the richest Crimean city Korsun and captured it. He demanded from Greek rulers to give him the hand of their beautiful sister Anna, threatening to do the same to Constantinople as he did to Korsun. He received an answer saying that marriage with heathens was against Christian traditions. Volodymyr was christened in Korsun. All of his men followed suit. Upon his return in Kiev, he baptized his 12 sons in a stream which ever since bears the name Kreshchaty. Later, the prince baptized all Kievan folks in the Dnipro and Pochina. The path of Ruses to Christ was not an easy one. By sword and flame was Novgorod christened, and many times people revolted against the new religion. It took 100 years for the new faith to set roots in Kievan Rus. Most of the Volodymyr's great deeds were continued by his son Yaroslav, whose special attitude towards culture and education earned him a name, the Wise. European monarchs considered an honor to tie his family relations with Yaroslav the Wise. His daughter Anna married the French king, while Elizaveta and Nastasia married Norwegian and Hungarian kings respectively. His son Vsevolod took the Byzantine queen as his wife, and Sviatoslav married the sister of Archbishop of Trier. Inter TV channel dedicated to the celebration of the days of Kiev.